A wealthy CEO is hospitalized after an accident. His ex-wife visits with a girl who calls him Dad. Aiden glanced down at a hospital ID badge. Written across the back in Naomi's precise handwriting, RK authorized fatal dose. Embezzled $47M. Audit in 72 hours. You've met Zoe before, drugs made you forget. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story. Have you ever woken up to find your entire life was a carefully constructed lie? White ceiling tiles swam into focus as Aiden Blackwood blinked away the morphine haze. Hospital monitors beeped steadily beside him, tracking each painful breath. His last memory, rain-slicked Pacific Coast Highway, headlights glaring in his rearview mirror, then, nothing. He's awake, a child's voice exclaimed. Aiden turned his head, wincing at the stab of pain. There, bathed in California sunlight streaming through Venetian blinds, sat a woman in an emerald dress, her dark hair falling in soft waves around a face he'd spent 18 months trying to forget. Naomi? His voice cracked, disbelief warring with the fog of painkillers. But it was the small figure beside her that froze his breath, a little girl, no more than 7, with his piercing blue eyes and Naomi's determined chin. She launched herself toward the bed, her small hands gripping his arm. Daddy, you're awake. Mommy said you would be. Pure joy radiated from her face, a face he had never seen before. I don't. Aiden began, looking desperately at Naomi. Who is? This is Zoe, Naomi interrupted, her voice tight with urgency. Your daughter. That's impossible. We never had. Naomi leaned forward, slipping something cold and plastic into his hand beneath the sheets. Listen carefully. Your car didn't crash by accident. Richard planned it. The name penetrated his confusion. Richard Keller, his CFO, mentor, the closest thing to family since his parents died. Why would Richard? Look, Naomi whispered, nodding toward the item in his hand. Aiden glanced down at a hospital ID badge. Written across the back in Naomi's precise handwriting, RK authorized fatal dose. Embezzled $47M. Audit in 72 hours. You've met Zoe before, drugs made you forget. No, that can't. But even as he denied it, fragments of memory flickered, a code playground in Seattle. A yellow dress. A teddy bear with one eye. Your accident in Washington last year wasn't real, Naomi continued urgently. Richard drugged you when you discovered the missing money. He's been controlling your memories, your emotions. Especially about us. Zoe clutched his hand tighter. You promised you'd remember me next time, Daddy. Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside his room. Through the small window in the door, Aiden saw Richard's familiar silver hair. Beside him stood 2 security guards and a doctor holding a syringe. Trust me now or lose everything, Naomi whispered, eyes locked on his. Including her. Zoe's small fingers intertwined with his as Richard reached for the door handle, his reassuring mentor's smile firmly in place. How do you choose between the life you remember and the one that was stolen from you? Welcome back, friends. If you thought family reunions were complicated, try reconnecting while fleeing for your life. We have approximately 90 seconds, Naomi announced, disconnecting Aiden's monitors with practiced efficiency. Alarms began to wail as she helped him sit upright, his body protesting with each movement. Richard's here to help me, Aiden argued, even as he allowed her to guide his legs over the bed's edge. He's managed my care since he started drugging you, Naomi finished, tossing him a folded set of clothes from her oversized bag. Those headaches, mood swings, memory lapses. All carefully designed chemical compounds. Zoe stood looking out at the door, her small face solemn. The bad man's talking to the nurses, she reported. They look scared. Pain shot through Aiden's ribs as he pulled on jeans and a sweatshirt, his mind racing between contradicting realities. Could Richard, the man who'd guided him since he was 16, really be manipulating him? Yet Naomi's presence, the child with his eyes, the fragmented memories that didn't align with his known past. Code yellow, all floors. Patient Blackwood, Aiden. Potentially violent, experiencing paranoid delusions. Approach with caution. Richard's voice echoed through the hospital PA system as security doors clicked locked throughout the hallways. He's cutting off the exits. Naomi grabbed Aiden's arm. Service elevator. Now. They slipped into the hallway, Zoe clutching her worn teddy bear with white-knuckled fingers. Aiden's legs wobbled beneath him, withdrawal already beginning as the last dose of whatever Richard had been giving him faded from his system. The bear, Zoe whispered as they hurried down a staff corridor. Mr. Buttons has all the bad man's secrets inside him. Aiden stared at the child, his child, as another memory surfaced, this same teddy bear sitting on a table in a Seattle apartment, Naomi carefully stitching something into its stuffing while he watched, head pounding with confusion. The service elevator carried them to the basement, where a hospital worker barely glanced up from her phone as they passed. Outside, a nondescript sedan waited in the loading zone. Richard would have frozen your accounts by now, Naomi explained, helping him into the passenger seat while Zoe climbed in back. But he doesn't know about the offshore account I created in Zoe's name. Money you transferred 6 months ago in Seattle. I don't remember Seattle, Aiden insisted, though the certainty in his voice wavered. You will, Naomi promised, speeding away from the hospital. Once the drugs clear your system. The real question is whether you'll remember in time. In the rearview mirror, hospital security poured into the parking lot as Richard emerged through the main doors, phone pressed to his ear, face locked in an expression of concern that suddenly seemed less paternal and more predatory. Daddy, Zoe leaned forward, her small hand touching his shoulder. Mr. Buttons says trust Mommy. She never stopped fighting for you. 30 miles later, the world went black as Aiden collapsed, his body surrendering to withdrawal. Hey there, viewers. Drop a comment if you've ever felt that strange sensation when a memory returns, that electrical jolt when reality shifts beneath your feet. Rain lashed against weathered windows as Aiden thrashed on a narrow bed, sweat-soaked and trembling. The safe house. A modest cabin north of Malibu, creaked with each gust of wind, nature's percussion accompanying his withdrawal. Seattle. Code playground with red slides, he muttered, eyes rolling beneath closed lids. Yellow dress, promises. Naomi pressed a cool cloth to his forehead, her expression hovering between hope and fear. He's remembering fragments. That's faster than I expected. In the corner, Zoe sat cross-legged, solemnly removing stitches from her teddy bear with children's scissors. Mr. Buttons says the medicine is leaving Daddy's brain. The bad memories are coming back first because they hurt more. The cabin door opened as Marcus, Naomi's reluctant ally and former cybersecurity colleague, entered with supplies. Quantum Link just issued a statement. They're claiming Aiden had a psychotic break, stole company funds, and fled medical care. Right on schedule, Naomi muttered, accepting a laptop from Marcus. Richard's running the same playbook he used when Aiden first discovered the missing millions. The laptop displayed financial records, complex webs of transactions flowing from Quantum Link's government contracts into shell companies, then offshore accounts controlled by Richard Keller. $47 million, Marcus noted. Stolen gradually over 5 years. And Aiden found it during that Washington trip, Naomi continued, but never made it to the FBI meeting he scheduled. Instead, he had his accident, returned with memory gaps, and suddenly couldn't stand to be near me. Aiden's eyes snapped open, startlingly lucid. The hotel bar. Richard's drink, bitter aftertaste. Woke up in hospital. He grabbed Naomi's wrist. He showed me photos, you with another man. Said you were selling secrets. Manipulation through false evidence, Marcus explained. Classic gaslighting combined with pharmaceutical memory disruption. But 6 months ago, Aiden continued, struggling to sit up, I missed a dose during the Seattle conference. Clarity for a few hours. Saw you across the street. Followed. Found her. His gaze drifted to Zoe. The little girl approached, placing her teddy bear beside him. You pushed me on the swings for 2 hours, Daddy. You said my laugh sounded like bells. Richard's men found us, Naomi added softly. Dragged you back, claimed you were having an episode. Doubled your medication. Zoe carefully extracted a micro SD card from her bear's stuffing. Mr. Buttons kept it safe. Mommy said it has pictures of the bad man stealing money and hurting people. Marcus connected the card to his laptop. Files appeared, financial records, emails, surveillance footage. The final video showed Richard in a hospital room, this hospital room, just days ago, instructing a doctor to increase the dosage until cardiac arrest is inevitable. Make it look like a complication from the crash. Aiden stared at the screen, at Richard's face, familiar yet suddenly alien. He wants me dead before the audit. 72 hours, Naomi confirmed. That's how long we have to stop him and restore your life. Lightning flashed, illuminating Aiden's expression as it transformed from confusion to cold certainty. No. That's how long Richard has to live. Zoe climbed onto the bed, small arms wrapping around his neck. We don't hurt people, Daddy. Even bad ones. We just make them face the truth. Hello friends. Have you ever realized someone you completely trusted was methodically destroying your life? Hit like if you've experienced betrayal that changed everything. Morning sunlight filtered through dusty blinds as Aiden studied the documents spread across the cabin's kitchen table. Each page revealed another layer of Richard's deception, a 5-year campaign to systematically steal Quantum Link's assets while keeping its founder compliant through carefully administered drugs. The memory manipulation was just a side effect at first, Naomi explained, highlighting medical reports. Richard needed you to be functional but controllable. The compounds affected your emotional responses, particularly toward me when I started questioning financial discrepancies. Marcus pointed to a calendar marked with red flags. These dates correspond with your medication changes. Notice how they intensify whenever you approach financial oversight meetings. Aiden rubbed his temples, fighting the persistent headache of withdrawal. And the government security audit happening tomorrow would expose everything, Naomi finished. Richard's embezzlement, the falsified contracts, the offshore accounts. He needed you gone before federal investigators arrived. Zoe sat beside Aiden, carefully arranging crayon drawings in a precise line. I made these for you in Seattle, Daddy. You promised to hang them in your office. The childish sketches showed 3 stick figures holding hands, a family portrait from an alternate reality. Something tightened in Aiden's chest as he touched the waxy lines, another memory surfacing, sitting at a kitchen table while Zoe drew, Naomi preparing dinner, a moment of perfect normalcy that had been chemically erased. The medications didn't just affect memories, Marcus added, reviewing toxicology reports. They altered emotional responses. Specifically dampening affection, heightening paranoia toward anyone Richard identified as threats. Turning me against my own wife, Aiden murmured. Making me forget my own child. The perfect puppet CEO, Naomi said bitterly. Building revolutionary technology while Richard siphoned profits and prepared to take complete control. Aiden's phone, a burner purchased by Marcus, buzzed with an alert. News headlines appeared, Quantum Link founder suffering psychological break. CFO steps in, accompanied by sympathetic quotes from Richard expressing concern for his troubled protege. He's positioning himself to take over permanently, Marcus observed. There's more, Naomi said quietly, hesitating before continuing. I've been investigating financial fraud. Aiden, I found anomalies in your parents' plane crash report. The room went still. What kind of anomalies? Aiden asked, voice dangerously calm. Maintenance records altered after the fact. The mechanic who last serviced their plane died in an apparent suicide 3 days later. Naomi met his eyes. Richard became your guardian, gained influence over your trust fund, and directed your technical development immediately afterward. Before Aiden could respond, Zoe gasped, pointing to his wrist. "Daddy, your watch is blinking." The sleek titanium watch, a quantum link prototype he'd been developing before the accident, displayed a pulsing red light beneath its face. "That's impossible," Aiden whispered, staring at the device. "I wasn't wearing this during the crash." "No," Naomi agreed, face paling. "Richard must have put it on you at the hospital." Marcus grabbed the watch, examining it with a growing alarm. "It's not just keeping time, it's transmitting your location." Outside, car engines growled in the distance, growing louder by the second. Ever had that moment when you realize you're being hunted? Drop a comment below if you've ever had to leave everything behind in seconds. "Go, go, go!" Marcus shouted, shoving essential documents into a backpack while Naomi grabbed Zoe, already moving toward the rear exit. Aiden smashed the tracking watch under a boot heel, but the damage was done. Through grimy windows, black SUVs appeared on the dirt road leading to the cabin, dust clouds billowing behind them. "Richard's private security," Naomi explained, hustling Zoe into a concealed storm cellar. "They're former military. Extremely well paid for absolute loyalty. And complete discretion," Marcus added grimly, handing Aiden a loaded backpack. "These men don't ask questions or leave witnesses." The family retreated through a hidden tunnel that emerged in dense woodland 50 yards behind the property, an escape route Naomi had insisted on when selecting their safe house. As they fled uphill through ancient oaks, the sound of splintering wood echoed from the cabin. Richard's men had arrived. "There's a backup vehicle 2 miles north," Naomi painted, helping Zoe over fallen logs while Marcus covered their tracks. "Mountain Fire Road leads to Interstate 5. Aiden's recovering body protested each step, but clarity continued returning to his mind. "The government audit team, can we contact them directly?" "Richard has allies in multiple agencies," Marcus replied. "We need irrefutable evidence before approaching anyone official." They paused at a ridgeline, catching their breath while scanning for pursuers. Below, men in tactical gear methodically searched the surrounding forest, communication devices glinting in morning sunlight. Zoe clutched her teddy bear, face determined beyond her years. "Mommy prepared for this. She said the bad man would always find us." "Your mother," Aiden began, still struggling with the gaps in his history, "she never stopped fighting, did she?" "Not for a single day," Zoe answered with absolute certainty. "She learned how to hide us, how to hunt for truth, how to be invisible when needed." Naomi's phone vibrated with an incoming news alert. "Richard's escalating his narrative. Look." The screen displayed a Quantum Link press release, founder Aiden Blackwood implicated in corporate fraud, evidence discovered during medical leave shows systematic theft of company assets. CFO Richard Keller appointed acting CEO pending investigation. "He's framing you for his own crimes," Marcus observed. "Exactly what he did to my mother," Zoe stated matter-of-factly, causing all 3 adults to stare at her. "What did you say?" Aiden asked. "Mommy's company," Zoe explained, as if discussing obvious facts. "The bad man took it before I was born. Made everyone think she stole money, but it was him. That's why we had to hide when she found out about you." Naomi's expression tightened. "There's a lot we haven't had time to explain." A twig snapped nearby. Marcus motioned for silence as a security operative passed 30 feet below their position, weapon ready. "We need to keep moving," Naomi whispered. "The mountain cabin is stocked with supplies." As they carefully continued uphill, Aiden's mind raced through implications. His entire life, achievements, relationships, even his treasured company, was built on a foundation of manipulation and lies. "What does Richard really want?" he asked quietly. "Beyond money? Why me?" Naomi's eyes met his, filled with the weight of 18 months of investigation. That's what terrifies me most. I don't think this was ever about money, it's about your algorithm. What it can really do in the wrong hands. Below them, more vehicles arrived at the cabin, including a familiar town car. Richard had joined the hunt personally. Welcome back. If you've ever had to trust a complete stranger with your life, hit that like button now. The mountain cabin perched on a granite outcropping, nearly invisible against the forest backdrop. Inside, Aiden paced before a crackling fire, studying the blizzard of documents Naomi had collected over 18 months of methodical investigation. "You've been tracking Richard's movements all this time?" he asked, amazed at her meticulous research. "While raising our daughter," Naomi confirmed, her exhaustion momentarily visible before determination resurfaced. Finding evidence was easier than figuring out who to trust with it. A knock at the door froze everyone. Marcus moved silently to a window, weapon ready, then relaxed slightly. "It's Reed," he announced, opening the door to reveal a weathered man in his 40s, dressed in hiking gear. "FBI Special Agent Marcus Reed," the newcomer introduced himself, presenting credentials. "I've been investigating Richard Keller for 14 months. Aiden tensed. "How did you find us?" "I've been watching you since Washington," Reed explained. "My team flagged unusual financial patterns in Quantum Link's government contracts. When you mysteriously abandoned a scheduled meeting with our Financial Crimes Division after supposedly having an accident. You suspected foul play," Naomi finished. Reed nodded. "We've been building a case against Richard, but he's extraordinarily careful. Has high-level connections in Justice Department, Defense, even within the Bureau itself. That's why my attempts to report him kept disappearing," Naomi realized. "I submitted evidence to 3 different agencies. Reports were intercepted, witnesses reassigned," Reed confirmed. "Richard cultivated allies in oversight positions for years. That's why I went undercover, working outside official channels." Zoe emerged from the bedroom, studying Reed with suspicious eyes. "Are you really one of the good guys? The bad man sends people who pretend to help." Reed knelt to her level. "Smart to question me. Your mom's been doing the same for months. That's why she insisted Marcus verify my identity before making contact." Aiden glanced at Naomi. "You knew about him?" "Not until Seattle," she explained. "After you found us and Richard's men took you back, Agent Reed approached me. I needed absolute verification before trusting him." Reed spread satellite photos across the table. "Richard's preparing for the government audit tomorrow by destroying evidence and framing Aiden. Meanwhile, he's accelerated something called Project Keystone at a secure facility beneath Quantum Link headquarters." "I never authorized any Project Keystone," Aiden stated. "Because it's not in Quantum Link's official records," Reed explained. "It's funded through the shell companies receiving the embezzled millions." Naomi pulled up encrypted files on her laptop. "From what I've gathered, it involves your core encryption algorithm being modified for something beyond data security. The algorithm is designed to create unbreakable data walls," Aiden protested. "It can't be weaponized. Unless the creator's original safeguards were removed," Naomi countered. "Which might explain why Richard needed to control you, then eliminate you once modifications were complete." Reed checked his secure phone. "My team reports Richard has scheduled an emergency board meeting tomorrow night. Quantum Link's annual charity gala provides perfect cover. He's consolidating control before the audit. Then that's our opportunity," Aiden decided. "We infiltrate the gala, access the server room, and download proof of Project Keystone along with his financial crimes. Extremely high risk," Reed warned. "The building will be filled with security. Also our only chance to clear your name before Richard completely rewrites reality," Naomi added. Zoe tugged Aiden's hand. What about me? I don't want to be separated again. The question hung heavy in the cabin's air as four adults exchanged troubled glances. The child had already lost her father once to Richard's machinations. I promise you, Aidan said, kneeling beside his daughter, nothing will keep us apart again. Outside, snow began falling, covering their tracks as night descended. Hey subscribers! Would you risk everything to reclaim your stolen life? Comment below with what you'd be willing to sacrifice. QuantumLink's annual charity gala transformed the company's ultramodern headquarters into a glittering showcase of wealth and innovation. Crystalline chandeliers bathed the main atrium in golden light while California's tech elite mingled with politicians and celebrities, champagne flowing as freely as multimillion-dollar donations. In a hotel room 3 blocks away, Aidan adjusted his bow tie, hardly recognizing his own reflection. His usual perfectly styled appearance had been deliberately altered. Hair darkened and swept differently, subtle facial prosthetics changing his jawline, colored contacts muting his distinctive blue eyes. Will it fool facial recognition? He asked as Naomi applied final touches to his disguise. For casual scans, yes, Reed confirmed, monitoring security feeds on a laptop. But avoid direct camera angles and stay moving through crowds. Naomi emerged from the bathroom in a stunning red gown, her own appearance similarly modified. The server room requires executive access. Even with the credentials we've forged, we'll have only minutes before security protocols detect the intrusion. Aidan's gaze drifted to Zoe, sitting quietly on the hotel bed. The child would remain with Agent Chen, Reed's most trusted colleague, in a secure location during the operation. I don't want you to go, Zoe whispered, clutching Mr. Buttons tightly. Kneeling beside her, Aidan fought the knot forming in his throat. I have to fix what Richard broke. Make things safe for us. What if you forget me again? Fear trembled in her voice. Not possible, Aidan assured her, tapping her chest gently. You're right here now. No drug can erase that. The goodbye tore at him, a pain made sharper by knowing he'd missed 7 years of such moments. As Reed escorted Zoe and Agent Chen to their secure location, Naomi squeezed Aidan's hand. She's stronger than you know, Naomi assured him. Had to be. An hour later, they glided through QuantumLink's front entrance, false identities proclaiming them as venture capitalists from Toronto. Security guards scanned their forged credentials without a second glance, the gala's controlled chaos providing perfect cover. Richard held court near a massive digital display showcasing QuantumLink's achievements. Silver-haired and impeccably dressed, he projected concerned dignity while describing his dear friend Aidan's unfortunate mental health challenges to sympathetic board members. Keep moving, Naomi murmured, guiding Aidan through the crowd. Server access is through the executive elevator. They navigated toward their target, exchanging practiced small talk with strangers while monitoring security rotations. The executive elevator required biometric confirmation, their most vulnerable moment. Ready? Naomi asked, withdrawing a specialized device from her clutch. Aidan nodded, positioning himself to block security cameras as she attached the device to the elevator scanner. Green light flashed as the doors slid open. Inside, Aidan released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Phase 1 complete. The hard part's next, Naomi reminded him, selecting the secure basement level. We'll have exactly 4 minutes before security protocols detect unauthorized access. As the elevator descended, Aidan's mind flashed to Zoe's fearful expression during their goodbye. Everything, his company, reputation, freedom, seemed suddenly secondary to one promise. Being the father she deserved. The elevator doors opened to a dimly lit corridor leading to QuantumLink's beating heart, the central server complex housing both corporate secrets and, hopefully, proof of Richard's crimes. Remember, Naomi whispered, if we're separated. I find Zoe, Aidan finished firmly. Nothing else matters. Ever faced someone who destroyed your life while they smiled to your face? Let me know in the comments if you've encountered a wolf in sheep's clothing. The charity gala's orchestra struck up another elegant melody as Richard Keller accepted the Technology Humanitarian Award, his practiced humility drawing appreciative applause from assembled guests. QuantumLink has always believed in securing not just data, but human potential, he announced from the podium, voice resonating with conviction. While our founder faces personal challenges, our mission remains unchanged. 6 floors below, Aidan and Naomi raced against time, downloading evidence from QuantumLink's secure servers. The cavernous server room hummed with the sound of countless processors, blinking lights reflecting off gleaming metal racks. Project Keystone files are encrypted beyond anything I've seen, Naomi whispered, fingers flying across keyboard commands. Even with your access codes, I can't break through. Because those aren't my codes, Aidan realized, studying the security architecture. Richard created a shadow system using my algorithm but modified the core protocols. We need more time, Naomi urged, watching the security countdown on her device. 2 minutes before systems flag our presence. Aidan made a swift decision. Keep working. I'll create a distraction upstairs. That's too dangerous. Trust me, he squeezed her hand before heading back to the elevator. I remember who I am now. The executive elevator deposited him near the main atrium just as Richard concluded his speech to thunderous applause. Without hesitation, Aidan strode directly toward the stage, removing his disguise elements as he walked. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd as recognition dawned. Security personnel moved immediately, but hesitated without clear orders. The supposedly unstable founder was walking calmly toward his mentor. Richard, Aidan called, voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. Wonderful speech about securing human potential. Perhaps you could explain how that relates to Project Keystone. Richard's composure never wavered, though his eyes hardened to flint. Aidan. What a surprise. I'm so relieved to see you here. He gestured discreetly to security. Are you feeling better? Your doctors have been extremely concerned. I'm feeling clear-headed for the first time in 18 months, Aidan replied, stopping at the edge of the stage. Amazing what happens when you stop taking drugs prescribed by someone stealing your company. Murmurs swept through the audience as board members exchanged alarmed glances. Richard's smile remained fixed as he placed a paternal hand on Aidan's shoulder. You're unwell, son. Let's get you somewhere quiet to talk. I'd prefer to talk right here, Aidan countered, addressing the crowd. About offshore accounts. Missing millions. Experimental memory-altering compounds administered without consent. Security guards closed in as Richard leaned close, whispering, consider carefully what happens to Zoe if you continue this performance. Ice flooded Aidan's veins. What did you say? Your charming daughter is quite recognizable with those distinctive blackwood eyes, Richard murmured, maintaining his concerned expression for onlookers. My men have been tracking Agent Chen's movements all evening. Aidan's momentary shock was mistaken by guests as evidence of instability, playing perfectly into Richard's narrative. He needs medical attention, Richard announced authoritatively. Please, give him space. Security personnel gripped Aidan's arms, leading him away from stunned onlookers. As he was escorted toward a side room, Aidan caught sight of Naomi emerging from the executive elevator across the atrium, her expression shifting from triumph to alarm. Their eyes met briefly before Richard stepped between them, his public mask of concern hiding the cold calculation beneath. I truly hoped we wouldn't end things this way, Richard sighed as the door closed behind them. You were my greatest achievement, Aidan. Right until you became my greatest disappointment. If you've ever discovered a truth so shocking it changed everything you believed about yourself, hit that subscribe button right now. The private conference room felt unnaturally quiet after the gala's elegant commotion. Security guards positioned themselves outside while Richard calmly poured 2 glasses of scotch, offering one to Aidan with practiced normality. You should know your wife successfully accessed restricted servers, Richard noted casually. My security team is retrieving her as we speak. Touch her and I'll. You'll what? Richard interrupted, amusement flickering across his features. You're being portrayed as mentally unstable, possibly violent. Any action you take simply reinforces that narrative. Aidan left the scotch untouched. Why, Richard? The money wasn't enough. You had to take my family too. Money was never the primary objective, Richard replied, swirling his drink thoughtfully. Though 47 million certainly makes for a comfortable operation. Then what was Project Keystone's real purpose? A subtle shift crossed Richard's expression, pride mixed with something darker. Your encryption algorithm was revolutionary, but incomplete. You built impenetrable walls around data without realizing the true potential. Which is selective information control at unprecedented scale, Richard explained, his voice taking on a professor's tone. Your algorithm modified correctly doesn't just protect information, it can filter reality itself. Control what people see, believe, remember. Cold understanding dawned. You've weaponized my security protocol. Weaponized? No. Evolved, Richard corrected. Think bigger, Aidan. What's more valuable than money in today's world? Information access. Whoever controls the digital filters through which people perceive reality shapes civilization itself. The door opened as Naomi was escorted in, a security guard gripping each arm despite her dignified resistance. Found her attempting to transmit data externally, one reported. Richard nodded dismissively. Disable her devices. As guards confiscated Naomi's equipment, Aidan noticed a familiar face among Richard's security team. Agent Reed, disguised in uniform, positioned himself strategically near the door. You should know, Naomi announced calmly, the evidence is already transmitting to multiple federal agencies. Richard's smile never faltered. To be intercepted by my associates within those same agencies. Your persistence is admirable but ultimately futile. You can't possibly have people everywhere, Aidan challenged. I don't need people everywhere, Richard countered. Just in positions where information flow can be managed. Project Keystone provides the rest, algorithmic reality curation at network level. Mass manipulation, Naomi translated bitterly. Guided perception, Richard corrected. And the truly elegant part? Your father designed the original framework, Aidan. I simply completed his vision after his unfortunate resistance led to necessary adjustments. The room seemed to tilt beneath Aidan's feet. My father? He would never. Jonathan Blackwood understood information control was the future of power, Richard continued. Until moral qualms interfered with progress. Unfortunately, you inherited his late developing conscience. You killed my parents, Aidan whispered, decades of grief crystallizing into horrifying clarity. I liberated their vision from their limitations, Richard replied, utterly without remorse. Just as I've done with you. Reed's hand moved subtly toward his concealed weapon as Richard checked his watch. This conversation, while nostalgic, has reached its conclusion, Richard announced. Tomorrow, Quantum Link announces your tragic suicide, overcome by guilt and delusion. A sad end to a brilliant but troubled mind. If you think you know where this story is heading, drop your prediction in the comments now, because nothing is what it seems. Fluorescent light reflected off the barrel of Agent Reed's gun as he suddenly drew his weapon, and pointed it directly at Aidan. Sir, we've confirmed the security breach originated from Ms. Williams' device, Reed reported professionally to Richard. The building is secured. No data transmission reached external networks. Naomi's face was drained of color. Marcus, what are you? Agent Reed has been extremely valuable in tracking your movements, Richard explained, satisfaction evident in his tone. Did you really believe federal agents operate without oversight? I've had connections in the Bureau for decades. Reed's expression remained impassive as he gestured for the other guards to leave. I'll handle the subjects personally, sir. Excellent, Richard nodded approvingly as the room emptied. Clean resolution, no loose ends. Make it look convincing, murder-suicide fits our narrative perfectly. Aiden's mind raced through options, finding none. The final betrayal, the one person they trusted with Zoe's safety, had been Richard's asset all along. "Where is my daughter?" Naomi demanded, voice tight with controlled terror. "With Agent Chen, as planned," Reed replied coolly. "For now." Richard checked his phone, reading an incoming message with satisfaction. "Project Keystone initiates in 40 minutes. Perfect timing to conclude unfinished business." He moved toward the door. "I'll leave you to wrap things up, Agent Reed." The door closed with chilling finality, leaving them alone with their betrayer. Reed waited 10 seconds, then holstered his weapon and activated a jamming device from his pocket. "We have approximately 3 minutes before security protocols override this disruption." "You're working for him," Aiden accused. "If I were, you'd both be dead already," Reed countered, removing ventilation grates to reveal a hidden passage. "This leads to the maintenance tunnels. Agent Chen has Zoe secure at extraction point Beta." Naomi stared in disbelief. "You're not compromised." "Triple agent operation," Reed explained swiftly. "Richard believes I'm his asset who infiltrated the FBI. Actually, we identified his network months ago but needed to trace his full operation." "Why the deception just now?" Aiden demanded. "Because surveillance is watching everything," Reed explained, urging them toward the passage. "Richard needed to believe I was executing his orders. Meanwhile, the evidence you collected is being routed through secure channels his people can't intercept." Hope flickered tentatively as they crawled into the dark passage. "Richard mentioned Project Keystone initiates in 40 minutes, Aiden whispered. "What exactly is activating?" "The algorithm modification goes live across all quantum-link protected networks simultaneously," Reed explained grimly. "Including government defense systems, financial infrastructures, and media distribution platforms. Complete information control," Naomi realized. "The ability to filter reality itself. Which is why we need to reach the Project Keystone Control Center," Reed urged. "Your father built a failsafe, Aiden. Richard doesn't know it exists." The maintenance tunnel stretched ahead, leading them deeper beneath Quantum Link headquarters, and closer to the heart of Richard's decades-long conspiracy. "Have you ever realized that the person you thought was your enemy might be your only hope? Hit that like button if you've experienced a shocking reversal of fortune." The maintenance tunnels beneath Quantum Link headquarters formed a concrete maze, dimly lit by emergency fixtures casting harsh shadows as Reed led Aiden and Naomi deeper into the building's restricted areas. "I've been undercover for 26 months, Reed explained, checking a digital blueprint on his secure device. "Richard recruited me himself, believing he was turning an FBI agent. My handler is the only person who knows my true assignment." "And Agent Chen?" Naomi demanded, still distrustful after the conference room deception. "Former intelligence operative, now FBI. One of the few people completely verified as clean from Richard's influence." Reed paused at an intersection, selecting the right pathway. She and Zoe should be at the extraction point already. Aiden stumbled suddenly, a violent tremor running through his body as he leaned against the tunnel wall. The medication withdrawal, Naomi realized, supporting his weight. "It's getting worse." "I'm fine," Aiden insisted, though sweat beaded his forehead and his pupils contracted unevenly. "Keep moving." Reed's communication device vibrated. "FBI tactical teams are moving into position. Richard's security is scrambling. They think it's a routine drill. He'll know better," Aiden warned. "He always has contingencies." They reached a secured door labeled, "Maintenance Access Only," which Reed opened with a specialized electronic key. "This leads to sublevel C," he explained. "Where Project Keystone's core processors are housed." The door opened to reveal a state-of-the-art facility unlike anything publicly associated with Quantum Link, row upon row of quantum processors humming with barely contained power, cooling systems releasing controlled bursts of vapor into the chilled air. "My God," Naomi whispered. "This is military-grade infrastructure." "Because it is," Reed confirmed. "Built with black-budget funding through shell corporations. Richard's been developing this for years while presenting QuantumLink as a commercial security company." Aiden approached the central control station, recognition dawning despite his clouded mind. "This architecture, it's based on my father's original designs." "I recognize the configuration. Can you access it?" Reed asked urgently. "Not without," Aiden's reply was cut short as another seizure gripped him, more violent than before. He collapsed to his knees, visions flashing behind his eyes, fragmented memories cascading through neural pathways as his brain chemistry struggled to rebalance. "He needs medical intervention," Naomi insisted, kneeling beside him. Reed's communication device buzzed with an incoming alert. His expression darkened as he read the message. "FBI teams have secured the building, but Richard's gone." He looked up grimly. "And so is Zoe." "What?" Naomi gasped. "How?" Agent Chen was ambushed at the extraction point. "She's alive but injured. Richard took Zoe 10 minutes ago." Aiden forced himself upright despite the pain radiating through his skull. "He's using her as insurance." Reed's device buzzed again. Incoming transmission. The screen displayed Richard's face, composed and confident despite the chaos erupting around his operation. A valiant effort, he acknowledged with professional admiration. But ultimately futile. Project Keystone activates in 20 minutes regardless of your building takeover. The camera panned to reveal Zoe, frightened but unharmed, clutching her teddy bear. "Simple exchange," Richard continued calmly. "The child for control access. My private airfield. 15 minutes. Aiden comes alone or she disappears forever." The screen went dark as Naomi's anguished eyes met Aiden's. "I'm going," he said, with no room for debate in his voice. Have you ever faced an impossible choice between saving someone you love and protecting thousands of strangers? Comment below what you would do in such a devastating situation. Rain pelted the armored FBI vehicle as it tore through empty streets toward Richard's private airfield outside Los Angeles. Inside, Aiden received emergency treatment from a tactical medic while Naomi monitored Richard's coordinates on specialized tracking equipment. "The compound is clearing from your system," the medic explained, checking Aiden's vitals. "But neural recalibration is unpredictable. You could experience complete memory restoration or severe cognitive instability." "Doesn't matter," Aiden replied, his focus absolute despite the pain. "Just keep me functional for the next hour." Reed conferred with his team through encrypted channels. "Satellite shows Richard's jet fueled and ready. Minimal security, he's keeping this quiet. He wants Aiden, not a hostage exchange," Naomi analyzed, studying the airfield layout. "This is his contingency plan, escape with both Aiden and Zoe while Keystone activates. Which means he needs me alive and cooperative," Aiden concluded. "At least initially." The vehicle swerved onto a private access road as Naomi adjusted tactical gear over her evening gown, checking the specialized equipment concealed within. Aiden watched with growing curiosity. "Where did you learn tactical operations?" he asked. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "After I left you, I needed skills Richard wouldn't expect from a computer analyst. Found a former military instructor willing to train me off the grid. Paid him with algorithm optimizations for his security business. There's so much I don't know about you," Aiden realized. "We have time to fix that," she replied, determination replacing vulnerability. "After we get our daughter back." Reed's tactical display updated with thermal imagery of the airfield. 6 figures on the tarmac. Richard, Zoe, for security personnel. Jet engine starting. "We need a distraction," Aiden decided. "Something to separate Richard from Zoe. I have an idea, Naomi offered. But it requires perfect timing and Richard believing I'm not present. 5 minutes later, their vehicle stopped a half-mile from the airfield perimeter. Rain continued falling, providing additional cover as Reed deployed his team in strategic positions around the facility. Remember, Reed cautioned, Richard's primary objective is escaping with control of Keystone. Zoe is leverage, not his end goal. And Keystone goes live in 12 minutes regardless of what happens here, Naomi added grimly. Aiden removed his bow tie and evening jacket, rain soaking his dress shirt as he prepared to approach alone. How will you disable it without me? We won't, Reed admitted. The system requires executive biometric confirmation to abort activation. Without you or Richard, it proceeds automatically. Then we need Richard alive, Aiden concluded, the stakes becoming clearer. And cooperative. Lightning flashed across the sky as Aiden took Naomi's hand one final time. If this goes wrong. It won't, she interrupted fiercely. We've lost too much already. They shared a brief, desperate kiss before Aiden turned toward the airfield, raising his hands as he approached the security perimeter. Floodlights immediately locked onto his solitary figure walking steadily through the downpour. Through tactical binoculars, Naomi watched Richard emerge from the jet's cabin, satisfaction evident even at distance. Beside him stood Zoe, confusion and fear visible on her small face until she spotted her father approaching. Daddy! Her voice carried faintly through the rain as she tried to run toward him, immediately restrained by one of Richard's men. Right on schedule, Richard called out, gesturing Aiden forward. Your dedication to family is your greatest weakness, though I confess to finding it somewhat admirable. As Aiden continued his approach, Naomi whispered into her communication device, all units hold position. Wait for my signal. On the tarmac, Richard checked his watch with practiced casualness. 7 minutes until Keystone activation. Just enough time for a father-daughter reunion before our departure. If you've ever had to face the person who destroyed your life, you know true courage. Double tap that like button if you believe in standing up to those who've wronged you. The private jet's engines hummed against the steady drumbeat of rain as Aiden approached the airfield center, every step measured and deliberate. Richard waited at the base of the boarding stairs, one hand resting possessively on Zoe's shoulder, the other holding an umbrella that sheltered them both from the downpour. That's close enough, Richard called when Aiden reached the midpoint of the tarmac. You understand I need certain assurances before we proceed. Let her go first, Aiden countered, rain plastering his hair to his forehead, eyes never leaving his daughter's face. Richard laughed softly. Your negotiating position is rather weak, I'm afraid. In approximately 6 minutes, Project Keystone activates across global networks. My presence is no longer required for implementation. Then why am I here? Aiden demanded. If the project launches automatically, you don't need me. For the maintenance phase, Richard explained with professional patience. Keystone's initial deployment is merely the beginning. Its evolution requires your particular genius, willing or otherwise. Zoe clutched her teddy bear tightly, eyes locked on Aiden with desperate hope. Daddy, I knew you'd come. Always, sweetheart, Aiden promised, his voice steady despite the storm raging around them and within him. Richard checked his watch again. Touching family reunion, but time presses. Here's my generous offer, board the plane with your daughter, continue your work under my guidance, and enjoy a privileged existence as Keystone reshapes global information flow. And if I refuse? Then you board anyway, your daughter returns to Agent Reed's custody, and your cooperation is achieved through chemical means. Richard's expression hardened. You've experienced my pharmaceutical persuasion techniques before. Memories flashed through Aiden's mind, confusion, paranoia, the artificial hatred for Naomi that had torn apart his family. Never again. Why me? Aiden asked, stalling while scanning for any opportunity to reach Zoe. You clearly have the resources to hire dozens of programmers. Because Keystone isn't just your creation, Aiden. It's your inheritance. Richard's voice softened with something almost like pride. Your father began this work 30 years ago. The Blackwood Consciousness Interface, designed to bridge human cognition with computational systems. The revelation hit like physical pain. My father would never. Your father was brilliant but ultimately sentimental, Richard interrupted. When he realized the military applications, he threatened to destroy everything. Such a waste of revolutionary technology. Understanding crashed through Aiden's remaining mental barriers. You killed him. Sabotaged their plane. I preserved his vision by removing his limitations, Richard corrected calmly. Just as I've done with you. The Blackwood genius continues through you, and eventually, through her. He squeezed Zoe's shoulder meaningfully. Rage and clarity crystallized simultaneously in Aiden's mind. He'd been manipulated, drugged, and controlled, but he had never been beaten. I'll go with you, Aiden conceded, approaching slowly. But she walks to the FBI perimeter first. Richard considered briefly, then nodded. A reasonable compromise. Say goodbye to your father, child. You'll see him again when he's completed his work. As Zoe was released, her eyes met Aiden's with complete trust. In that moment, something locked into place in his fractured mind. A father's absolute clarity of purpose. Run to mommy in the black car, Zoe, Aiden instructed calmly, never breaking Richard's gaze. Daddy has unfinished business. What would you do if you suddenly remembered everything that was stolen from you? Share your thoughts below if you believe some memories can change everything in an instant. The jet cabin door sealed with a pneumatic hiss, locking Aiden inside with the man who had systematically dismantled his life. Richard settled into a plush leather seat, signaling the pilot to prepare for immediate takeoff. She's remarkably like you, Richard observed, accepting a crystal tumbler of scotch from a hidden compartment. That same intensity when solving problems. I've monitored her development with interest. You've been watching my daughter. Aiden remained standing, cataloging every detail of the cabin, emergency exits, communication systems, potential weapons. Because Keystone isn't just your creation, Aiden. It's your inheritance. Richard's voice softened with something almost like pride. Your father began this work 30 years ago. The Blackwood Consciousness Interface, designed to bridge human cognition with computational systems. The revelation hit like physical pain. My father would never. Your father was brilliant but ultimately sentimental, Richard interrupted. When he realized the military applications, he threatened to destroy everything. Such a waste of revolutionary technology. Understanding crashed through Aiden's remaining mental barriers. You killed him. Sabotaged their plane. I preserved his vision by removing his limitations, Richard corrected calmly. Just as I've done with you. The Blackwood genius continues through you, and eventually, through her. He squeezed Zoe's shoulder meaningfully. Rage and clarity crystallized simultaneously in Aiden's mind. He'd been manipulated, drugged, and controlled. But he had never been beaten. I'll go with you, Aiden conceded, approaching slowly. But she walks to the FBI perimeter first. Richard considered briefly, then nodded. A reasonable compromise. Say goodbye to your father, child. You'll see him again when he's completed his work. As Zoe was released, her eyes met Aiden's with complete trust. In that moment, something locked into place in his fractured mind, a father's absolute clarity of purpose. Run to mommy in the black car, Zoe, Aiden instructed calmly, never breaking Richard's gaze. Daddy has unfinished business. What would you do if you suddenly remembered everything that was stolen from you? Share your thoughts below if you believe some memories can change everything in an instant. The jet cabin door sealed with a pneumatic hiss, locking Aiden inside with the man who had systematically dismantled his life. Richard settled into a plush leather seat, signaling the pilot to prepare for immediate takeoff. She's remarkably like you, Richard observed, accepting a crystal tumbler of scotch from a hidden compartment. That same intensity when solving problems. I've monitored her development with interest. You've been watching my daughter? Aiden remained standing, cataloging every detail of the cabin, emergency exits, communication systems, potential weapons. From a respectful distance, Richard clarified. Her cognitive patterns suggest she may surpass even your capabilities. The Blackwood genetic legacy continues impressively. Rain pelted the cabin windows as the jet began taxiing toward the runway, leaving behind the chaos of FBI teams now swarming the airfield. Through the diminishing view, Aiden caught a glimpse of Zoe reaching Naomi at the perimeter, safe, at least for now. You won't win, Aiden stated with quiet certainty. Even if Keystone activates, people will resist. Richard's smile carried genuine amusement. They won't even know they're being influenced. The beauty of your father's original design was its subtlety, information filtered through emotional response metrics, nudging perception rather than controlling it outright. The jet accelerated down the runway as Richard checked his watch with satisfaction. And, activation complete. Keystone is now integrating with global information networks. The new era begins. Something shifted in Aiden's expression, a calmness that caused Richard's confidence to falter momentarily. What amuses you? Richard demanded. You never understood my father's work, Aiden replied. Or mine. I understood its potential better than either of you, Richard countered, irritation bleeding through his composed facade. No, Aiden corrected gently. You understood its applications, not its fundamental nature. The Blackwood consciousness interface wasn't designed as a control mechanism. The jet lifted off, banking sharply through storm clouds as Richard's expression hardened. Explain yourself. It was designed as a truth filter, Aiden continued, certainty growing with each word. Algorithmic recognition of manipulation attempts, not implementation of them. My father created it to protect people from exactly what you're trying to do. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Richard's features. You can't possibly remember. But I do, Aiden interrupted, memories crystallizing with perfect clarity. Not just what you took from me, everything you never knew I had. The jet leveled at cruising altitude as Aiden reached inside his rain-soaked shirt, withdrawing the teddy bear's missing eye, a quantum storage device Zoe had pressed into his hand during their brief contact on the tarmac. My daughter, Aiden explained with quiet pride, inherited more than just my cognitive patterns. She understood exactly what needed to be done. Richard lunged for the device, but decades of manipulating others from behind desks had left him physically unprepared for Aiden's determined resistance. The struggle ended quickly, with Richard pinned against the cabin wall. What have you done? Richard demanded, genuine fear replacing his confident mask. Activated the original Blackwood protocol, Aiden explained calmly. While you focused on controlling information flow, Keystone's core architecture just received my father's original command codes. It's not filtering reality to control people, Richard. It's exposing manipulation by flagging artificially constructed narratives across all connected networks. Outside the cabin windows, fighter jets appeared on either side, escorting the aircraft back toward the airfield where flashing lights indicated a massive law enforcement presence. The truth filter is already identifying your network of conspirators, Aiden continued. Every falsified document, every manipulated news story, every corrupted official, all being flagged in real time across global systems. Richard's face drained of color as comprehension dawned. You've ruined everything. No, Aiden corrected, genuine compassion in his voice. I've finally completed my father's work. Just not the way you intended. Thank you for joining me on this journey of betrayal and redemption. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and share with someone who appreciates second chances. Golden California sunshine poured through floor-to-ceiling windows as Aiden watched Zoe racing across the backyard of their Malibu home, her laughter carrying on the ocean breeze. 6 months had transformed their lives, healing old wounds while building something new from truth rather than manipulation. She's designing her own encryption game, Naomi noted, joining him with coffee mugs in hand. Already testing it on her friends from school. Aiden accepted the coffee with a smile. The Blackwood legacy continues, but on her terms. The aftermath of Project Keystone's reversal had rocked global information systems, exposing networks of manipulation that crossed governments, corporations, and media entities. Richard awaited trial under maximum security, his decades of influence methodically dismantled by international investigators. The Foundation Board approved your proposal, Naomi mentioned, referring to the Blackwood Truth Initiative they'd established using recovered funds from Richard's hidden accounts. Full scholarships for 50 students focusing on ethical technology development. My father would have approved, Aiden replied, the pain of his parents' loss now tempered by understanding their true legacy. His recovery had progressed remarkably once proper medical treatment reversed Richard's chemical manipulations. Memory consolidation therapy had restored most of his lost experiences. Though the precious moments with Zoe during their brief Seattle reunion remained frustratingly fragmented. You're creating new memories now, Naomi had reassured him during difficult rehabilitation days. Better ones. She had been right. The rebuilt Quantum Link, now operating under transparent ethical guidelines with diverse oversight, had launched revolutionary privacy protections based on the original Blackwood protocols. Rather than controlling information flow, their technology now defended individual users against manipulation attempts. Reed called, Naomi mentioned, checking her phone. The last of Richard's overseas accounts has been frozen. His network is completely dismantled. And the backup servers? Aiden asked. Discovered and decommissioned, she confirmed. The truth filter protocols are fully autonomous now, evolving beyond anyone's ability to corrupt. Outside, Zoe waved excitedly for them to join her, proudly displaying a sand castle constructed with architectural precision unusual for a 7-year-old. She wants to show us her creation, Naomi translated unnecessarily, already moving toward the door. Aiden followed, pausing briefly to glance at the family photos now filling walls that had once displayed only professional accomplishments. New memories captured in sunlit frames, Zoe's first day at her new school, family hiking adventures, quiet evenings building elaborate code structures together. As he stepped into the sunshine to join his family, Aiden reflected on how completely his understanding of success had transformed. The empire he'd built paled compared to the joy of his daughter's hand in his, the warmth of Naomi's smile, the simple miracle of remembering who he truly was and what mattered most. Coming, Daddy. Zoe called impatiently. Always, he promised, meaning it with every recovered piece of his heart. I'll never forget again.